The oldest megalithic complex on the planet was not simply abandoned. It was deliberately and incredibly carefully buried under thousands of tons of earth. Think about it. Why would anyone need to hide a colossal structure under an artificial mountain? It looks like a desperate attempt to conceal the site from an impending threat. The architecture of Göbekli Tepe is far from a primitive temple of wild hunter-gatherers. Before us is a highly complex, earthquake-resistant observatory, recording a global planetary catastrophe with mathematical precision. Official history claims it was built by people who had barely learned to make fire, but the facts say otherwise. Look at these cyclopean T-shaped pillars. Some monoliths weigh up to 50 tons. They are carved from solid limestone with astonishing geometric precision. How did nomadic tribes, who knew neither the wheel nor metal, manage to carve, move, and perfectly balance these giant steles? The engineering precision of placing these multi-ton blocks leaves nothing to chance. The columns are set into shallow grooves in the bedrock, yet their center of gravity is calculated so flawlessly that they have stood for millennia. This is a masterclass in structural engineering, far beyond the reach of primitive tribes with stone hand axes. Modern research using 3D ground-penetrating radar scanning has revealed a frightening truth. Hidden underground are dozens more circular structures and hundreds of megaliths. We see a strict, mathematically precise system where every stone is part of a giant astronomical mechanism, frozen in time. Scanning the hidden layers of the complex revealed a strict astronomical alignment of the central columns. They point to specific constellations with frightening precision. But the most striking thing is that this starry sky does not match our time. It reflects a completely different era. The position of the stars captured in the stone of Göbekli Tepe perfectly matches the astronomical alignment of 11,000 years ago. This was the end of the last ice age, the epoch known as the Younger Dryas, a period when our planet shuddered from a global cataclysm that forever changed the face of the Earth. The famous Vulture Stone, or Pillar 43, is not just a collection of ritual symbols. It is a detailed astronomical map. The animal reliefs strictly correspond to the zodiac constellations, and their placement points to the exact date Earth collided with fragments of a giant comet. This very cosmic impact triggered the rapid melting of glaciers, a catastrophic rise in global sea levels, and the Great Flood described in myths around the world. The builders of Göbekli Tepe didn't just witness this catastrophe, they meticulously documented its parameters. The academic elite refuses to admit the obvious. They keep telling us fairy tales about the origins of agriculture and ancestor worship. But would primitive farmers really spend colossal resources building an astronomical complex instead of just trying to survive in the harsh conditions of a post-glacial world? The creators of this megalithic wonder clearly possessed knowledge millennia ahead of their time. They understood the precession of the Earth's axis and mastered complex geometry and stoneworking techniques that we are only just beginning to comprehend. These were not the pioneers of civilization, but its last survivors. Göbekli Tepe is the legacy of those who survived a planetary cataclysm, a fragment of an advanced culture wiped from the face of the Earth by the floodwaters. They gathered the remnants of their technology and knowledge to create this monumental archive, a database carved into the most durable material. But why was the complex so meticulously sealed? Thousands of tons of rubble, animal bones, and earth were brought here by hand to carefully bury every chamber. No signs of destruction or war. The megaliths were gently covered like fragile instruments before a long storm. This deliberate preservation looks like the creation of a giant time capsule. The builders understood that their civilization was fading and sought to pass on vital information to future generations. They hid the observatory beneath an artificial hill, protecting it from erosion, earthquakes, and the barbarism of ignorant descendants. The artificial mound of Göbekli Tepe conceals a chilling warning. Mathematical analysis of the pillar placements reveals a cycle of cosmic threats. This is not just a record of a past tragedy, it is a timeline of future catastrophes, encoded in the movement of celestial bodies and the precessional cycle of our planet. Notice the tool marks on some of the blocks. Deep, even cuts and perfectly smooth surfaces that are impossible to make with a flint chisel. We see the remaining traces of unknown tools, capable of easily cutting through dense rock as if it were soft clay. The structural inconsistencies in the official timeline are found at every step. The oldest layers of the complex are the most advanced from an engineering standpoint. The closer to the present day, the more primitive the masonry becomes. This is a clear sign of technological decline, not advancement. The engineers who survived the flood erected the central megaliths, setting the highest standard. But their descendants, having lost the knowledge, could only clumsily copy these forms, creating increasingly crooked and smaller structures until the complex completely lost its original purpose. The complex required just as much engineering effort as building it. The volume of earth moved is comparable to building a small pyramid. It was a highly organized, large-scale operation that required strict discipline and a clear plan. Primitive tribes are simply incapable of such self-organization. The T-shaped stelae are a faceless anthropomorphic figure, a silent guardian of ancient secrets. Their hands are folded on their stomachs in a gesture that would later be copied by the statues of Easter Island and the megaliths of South America. A single global signature of a vanished proto-civilization. Scientists deliberately ignore these inconvenient parallels, admitting that a global network of surviving engineers existed 11,000 years ago means completely rewriting the history books. It is easier to call Göbekli Tepe an anomaly and keep repeating mantras about hunters suddenly deciding to move 50-ton stones. But stones do not lie. The complex's seismic-resistant design, where monoliths absorb the tremors of the Earth's crust, proves a deep understanding of tectonics. These people knew the Earth would tremble, and they built to last, ensuring their message would reach its recipient. What exactly were they trying to tell us? Perhaps Pillar 43 warns of the return of the very same torrid meteor shower that once wiped humanity off the face of the Earth. The dial of the cosmic clock relentlessly counts down to the next orbital crossing. The time capsule was opened only recently, but we still cannot fully decipher its code. We look at these megaliths through the eyes of amnesiacs who have forgotten their true past. Our arrogance prevents us from seeing the obvious truth. Göbekli Tepe is not the beginning of our history. It is the monumental epilogue of a great civilization of the past, which desperately tried to warn us about the fragility of the world. The artificial mountain still holds many secrets in its depths, waiting for the hour when we are ready. Time will tell whether we can learn this ancient lesson, or if our civilization will become just another forgotten layer beneath the sand. The traces of the past are uncovered, the warning received. Now, the fate of humanity depends on whether we have the wisdom to listen.